What's up, Taiwan? I'm Liao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's 31st annual nuclear disaster drill is unfolding near the retired Ma'anshan nuclear power plant in the country's far south. This is the first exercise since Taiwan shut down all of its nuclear power plants, but nuclear waste still poses significant risks. Our reporter Irene Lin takes you there to see how locals prepare for a potential radiation leak.
First responders drive around this neighborhood less than 3 kilometers away from a nuclear power plant, telling residents to evacuate. It's the 31st year of Taiwan's nuclear disaster drill, and it's the first since the nearby Ma'anshan nuclear power plant was decommissioned in May. Volunteers go door to door to alert those who have trouble hearing the alarm. It's a new feature this year to better protect people with disabilities and elderly people during a nuclear accident. A key scenario in this year's drill is the impact of natural disasters on rescue efforts. Local shops have joined the efforts by offering up space for medical assistance in case the area becomes inaccessible after an earthquake. Now we're at a backup help center set up in front of a local restaurant. Those injured and evacuees will be sent here for treatment and get scanned for radiation, instead of a nearby airport where official help there is disrupted by natural disaster. The Army has also sent a helicopter to deliver aid in the case of the area being completely cut off. Pingtung County Chief Zhou Chunmi, who is against bringing back nuclear power, has come to oversee the evacuation. She says the exercise is important even after the Ma'anshan nuclear power plant was decommissioned, as nuclear waste stored inside could cause radiation leaks during an earthquake or extreme weather event.
处役的过渡的阶段，那我们面临了天然灾害或者外电中断或者其他的这个不可预知的一些灾害的时候，我们的应变都需要透过一再的演练，不容有任何的松懈。
In the neighboring Condemned district, just outside the evacuation zone, some are not so concerned about a nuclear accident now that the plant has closed.
它已经埋下去了，它核废料又不会爆炸。 它要不是那个核电厂会爆炸，对不对？啊，干嘛要去演习那个核废料？
While some from outside of Pingtung think the prospect of a natural disaster is a concerning factor for nuclear safety.
我觉得台湾地震蛮频繁的演习是需要的。
While the chances of the Ma'anshan plant being brought back into service seem uncertain, and people here seem confident in their safety, officials who arranged the drill believe it's better to prepare for any eventuality. Joseph Wu and Irene Lin in Pingtung for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is condemning what it calls a dangerous maneuver by China's Air Force, as reports surface that Chinese warplanes flew close to a Taiwanese medical flight in June. The plane was flying from Taidong in eastern Taiwan to the outlying Jinmen Islands when 2 Chinese jets reportedly came close enough to be seen by the flight crew. The flight company says there was still some distance between them, but the Mainland Affairs Council, which governs relations with China, says the maneuver shows Beijing's disregard for human life. It also says it highlights China's growing military pressure on Taiwan.
那如果说没有什么反应，可能下一次他就软土深掘，然后采取更进一步的行动。那我觉得未来应该采取这个更严密的监控，就是我们如果说有这种医疗专机准备要飞行，其实就要研判中共可能采取一些骚扰的行动。
China regularly sends military aircraft into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Taiwan's defense ministry monitored 13 such jets around the country in the 24 hours up to Wednesday morning. In light of these threats, Taiwan's leaders are coming together to strengthen national security in all areas of society. Cadence Quaranta reports.
In the face of geopolitical uncertainty, gray zone threats from China, as well as other threats like climate change and changes to international trade, Taiwan's leaders are gathering to discuss how to protect the nation's security. President Lai Ching-te says Taiwan needs to prioritize resilience in a number of sectors.
在这样的时代，国家安全的内容不再只是军事防卫，更涵盖通讯、金融、能源、治安等多重面向。身为全球民主阵营的重要一员，台湾必须提升国家的整体韧性， 才能够确保国家的安全以及永续发展。
Liao also said Taiwan needs to prioritize securing the semiconductor supply chain, which Taiwan plays a central role in, as well as digital and communications security. He mentioned Taiwan's undersea cables, which connect the country to the rest of the world and have recently been damaged, with some experts warning of deliberate sabotage by China. Securing Taiwan's industries was also on the agenda, with the economy minister saying the country needs to make sure the AI industry has enough talent.
因为 AI 未来是重中之重，所以怎么样让我们的毕业生或者是跨领域的让更多人可以了解 AI？ 那这个就是我们要不断的透过训练也好，或者是这个学校的这个加强也好，让这个人力可以充沛起来。另外，台湾的人如果不够之下，我们外籍的人才以及外籍学生大量的延揽进来，已经有更开放的这样的幅度了。
Both leaders also talked about how to help small and medium-sized businesses cope with U.S. tariffs. With the backdrop of global uncertainties, leaders here are pushing for an expanded sense of security, one that doesn't just include military readiness, but also increased resilience in all areas of society. Klein Wong and Cadence Caranta for TaiwanPlus.
It's not just national leaders working to strengthen defenses here in Taiwan. One hands-on event in Taipei is showing young people how to put civil defense principles into practice. Our reporter Alan Liu has more.
我要动用1张原我旅的卡牌来打这个9之1。
China pounds southern Taiwan with rockets. In response, Taiwan deploys troops and sets up air defenses. This is not real life, but a tabletop war game involving college students. They're trying to figure out how to respond if China were to attack Taiwan. The game simulates government decision-making during a conflict. Its founder says the goal is not to predict results, but to inspire insights from students.
The first objective is to let the participants and the audience to know more about the military issues about Taiwan. And another thing is our purpose is to simulate the crisis management to let our participants, especially those still freshmen of National Taiwan University, to understand the proper way to conduct coordination and decision making.
During the games, one key challenge students encounter is how to communicate effectively across government bodies. One of the experts in attendance is former Chief of General Staff Li Ximing. He shows this game's president how government functions are likely to be disrupted during wartime. This student president is a business major. She says only by truly understanding cross-strait issues can she make the right decisions. And this war game helps.
无论是在从商业的角度或者经济角度、政治角度，我都认为人民应该具备有良好的两岸的政治的观念，那我们才可以知道，无论是在资产的配置上面啊，或者是未来做商业决策的时候，应该怎么去良好的应对。
Another student says by playing the defense minister, he started to understand how hard it is to coordinate different forces, especially when trying to report situations to the president in a timely manner.
在战时的时候，其实情势是非常紧迫。那我觉得要在这么短的时间内做呈报是一件非常困难的事情。
Another key to a successful defense is to identify societal infiltration, which relies on efforts made by civil society.
It's important for just regular citizens like the students to understand the threat from Fifth Element infiltration, the Chinese agents that's already in Taiwan, and even as individual citizens, maybe they will gain an understanding down the road how they can do something to prevent these type of damages to Taiwan's critical infrastructures.
As China's military threat grows, Taiwan in recent years has emphasized the importance of civil resilience. These students are seen as an indispensable part of that effort, proving that national defense isn't a distant concept, but something everyone can take part in. Heng Shi and Ellen Liu for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. government has approved licenses to American chip manufacturing giant NVIDIA to sell its H20 chips to customers in China, according to its CFO, Colette Kress. Kress was speaking at a technology conference in San Francisco on Monday. She said sales of H20 chips could bring in revenues of up to $5 billion in this year's third quarter. The chips were designed to bypass U.S. restrictions on exported tech. But Kress said tensions between the U.S. and China are still a stumbling block. Last month, China urged its tech sector not to use chips from NVIDIA and other Western companies, citing security concerns. A bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers is set to visit China later this month. The U.S. House of Representatives delegation will be led by Democrat Adam Smith. It comes shortly after China unveiled its latest advanced weapons at a massive military parade in Beijing and as trade negotiations between the two countries continue. It would be the first House delegation to China since 2019. It is not yet clear if they will meet with President Xi Jinping. Hamas says 5 of its members were killed in an Israeli strike on a residential compound in Qatar, but that its negotiating team survived. The attack has drawn international backlash as the war in Gaza rages on. John Van Trieste has more.
Smoke pours from a compound in Doha, Qatar, hit by an Israeli airstrike. Hamas negotiators had been meeting inside to discuss a U.S. proposal for a Gaza ceasefire. The strike killed 5 Hamas members and 1 member of Qatar's security forces. But the Palestinian group says Israel's attempt to wipe out the negotiating team failed. Qatar is angry. It's positioned itself as a mediator, a safe place where enemies like Hamas and Israel can sit down and talk. That's something the country says it will continue to be despite the Israeli strike. But Qatar's prime minister has made his country's anger clear, calling out Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu by name.
The Israeli attack that took place today on Qatari soil, we cannot call it anything other than state terrorism, carried out by Netanyahu as part of his systematic policies and ongoing attempts that have destabilized regional security and stability, is simply a clear message to the region as a whole. And this message says that there is a rogue player in this region and ongoing political recklessness that has encroached upon the sovereignty of states. Netanyahu himself declared that he would reshape the Middle East. Does this message mean that he intends to reshape the Gulf as well?
But Netanyahu says Hamas is paying the price for its October 2023 attacks in Israel, in which it killed over 1,000 people and took over 200 hostages.
They perpetrated the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Now, they were meeting in the same place, exactly the same place, where they celebrated this savagery almost 2 years ago. At the beginning of the war, I promised that Israel would reach those who perpetrated this horror. And today, Israel and I have kept that promise.
It's not just Qatar that's enraged by the Israeli strike, though. A stream of world leaders has condemned it in social media posts. And U.S. President Donald Trump is among those who are displeased. The U.S. is a key ally of both Israel and Qatar, but the U.S. says it didn't get enough advance notice of the strike to warn Qatar in time. Trump has hoped for a negotiated settlement to the Israel-Hamas war. The chances of that are now up in the air.
I'll be giving a full statement tomorrow, but I would tell you this. I was very unhappy about every aspect, and we got to get the hostages back. But I was very unhappy about the way that went down.
All this international backlash hasn't slowed down Israel's war plans in Gaza. Israel ordered the full evacuation of Gaza City Monday, with Netanyahu saying this is just the prelude to what he called an intensified ground maneuver. Nearly 2 years in, the war in Gaza shows no signs of a settlement. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.